How's it going, guys? My name's John Hall. I'm here with Intense Cycles. Today I'm going to walk you through the unboxing and building of the Primer 2.9 Expert. Let's get started. First we're going to open it up. Flap these puppies open. We have wheel spacers that contains your build kit and accessories. You can toss the wheel spacers off to the side. I already have a toolkit open and ready here. The next thing we want to do is pull the wheels out. Set these off to the side. Next thing we want to do is pull the handlebars out. Set them up here and locate your dropper post lever to raise it up before we remove it from the bike. Now that we've located our dropper post lever, give it a push. Now that you've raised your dropper post, you're ready to pull it out of the box and put it in your bike stand. Now that you have your bike in the stand ready to build, we're going to remove all the factory packaging. All right, guys, now that we have all of our factory packaging off, we're ready to first install our handlebars. Step one is to loosen the pinch bolts of our stem and face it forward. That requires our three-way using our 4mm Allen wrench. We're going to loosen the two pinch bolts. They are on opposing sides of each other. And then spin it around so it's relatively straight, and we'll straighten and finalize everything in the final steps. The next step is we're going to remove the faceplate using the same 4mm Allen wrench. Now we're ready to install the bars, ensuring that our cables are not behind the stem and everything is facing and oriented correctly. Reinstall the stem faceplate with the Intense logo so you can read it. Hand install each bolt. Begin by putting the logo in the middle of the faceplate, and we can adjust this later during our setup process. Tighten the top two bolts first until there's no gap between the stem faceplate and the stem. You'll see that by the two arrows touching each other. Our next step is to install the derailleur onto the derailleur hanger, using our three-way again with the 5mm Allen key. Before threading the derailleur onto the hanger, ensure that the B plate is in the up position and able to set on the shelf of the hanger. Before we install the rear wheel, we want to lock the derailleur cage in the forward position by pushing down and engaging the button here and releasing it back so that it holds in that position there. Next, remove the rear axle by removing the toolless adjustment here. And remove the brake pad spacer. Grab your rear wheel and remove the factory packaging. Remove the cassette cover and remove the disc brake guard. When removing the disc brake guard, ensure that no wheel spacer stays attached to it. Both sides have wheel spacers. With rear wheel and rear axle in hand, we're going to install the rear wheel. Slip your wheel in, lay the chain over the cogs, and slide it into place, ensuring that the rotor goes in between the caliper. After your rear wheel is installed, your axle is tight, and you've ensured that your chain is on the smallest cog, we're going to release the derailleur cage like so. Push forward. Okay, now we're going to install the front wheel, first by starting to remove the factory packaging. Next, the rotor guard, ensuring that no hubcaps stay on the rotor guard. Remove the front axle by flipping the lever down and spinning it out. Next, remove the brake spacer. Now install your front wheel, ensuring that your rotor goes into your brake caliper. Install your front axle, tighten it, and when you flip your lever up, you want tension at the halfway point. Push it there so that it's always facing up. Now that we have our bike assembled and in the stand, we want to check our shifting. Do so by spinning the cranks and running through each gear. After you've checked your shifting, if you find you need any adjustments on that or your brakes, please refer to intensecycles.com in our tech videos, or feel free to call customer service. They'll be happy to help. At this point, feel free to install the pedals of your choice on the cranks. Now that we have the bike assembled in the stand, next thing we want to do is drop it on the ground. At that point, we're going to set our suspension, our seat height, our front controls, and finish torquing everything to spec. Make sure to put air in your tires before you set your bike back on the ground. Tire pressure is personal preference, but please don't exceed the tire manufacturer's maximum PSI. All right, now that we have the bike on the ground, we're going to put some air in the fork so that our bike is sat up in the proper geometry before we adjust our seat height. First thing we want to do is remove the air cap on the left-hand side. Then we're going to install the shock pump without cross-threading it. Then we want to refer to the pressure setting guide on the fork and find the pressure needed according to the rider weight. Once you've determined the pressure needed according to your weight, pump it up to that pressure. For this example, we're going to use 100 psi. Once we've achieved that pressure, we're going to equalize the positive and negative chamber in the Fox fork until we hear the air transfer between the two chambers. We do this or accomplish this by holding the brakes and pressing the fork. Some heavy pressure may be needed, but you will hear the air transfer between the ports. Once you no longer hear the air transferring between the ports, readjust your fork pressure back to the desired pressure according to your weight. Once that's accomplished, feel free to remove the shock pump. If you hear a little bit of air come out, that's okay. That's just air escaping the hose, not the fork. And reinstall your air cap on the left side. Now that we have air in our fork, there's already air in our shock, please refer to our video on Intense Cycles on how to properly set your sag and proper pressures before you ride. Seat height is much like tire air pressure. It's a personal preference depending on a lot of factors. To get you going and a good starting point, I like to set the top of the saddle height to either my hip or just above my hip height. To do that, take your 3-way Allen wrench, and in this case your 5mm, and loosen the seat clamp. Once you have the seat post loose, you're able to raise it up to the point where you need it, hold it, tighten it, ensuring that the seat is both straight and level. Now that you've got your seat height set and the bolt tightened by hand, we're going to torque it using the 5mm to 4 Newton meters. Okay, you may notice that our bars are crooked because we didn't tighten our stem when we initially set our bars up. That was on purpose. Now we want to make sure that these bolts are loose, the pinch bolts, with our 4mm. After we've ensured that our stem pinch bolts are loose, we want to snug up our top cap bolt to ensure that our headset's tight. Not too tight, otherwise you'll overload the bearings and you won't be able to steer properly. Too loose and your headset will be loose, making loud noise and wearing your bearings out too soon. Now that we've ensured that our headset's at the proper tightness, we want to make sure that our bars are straight. Use your best judgment on this by lining up the horizon of your bars with your front wheel or your fork. Now that we've ensured that our bars are straight, we can now tighten the pinch bolts on our stems to 5 Newton meters. The last thing I like to do is adjust the bar roll. We're going to loosen the bottom two so that we can adjust our bar roll. You're now free to spin your bars to a comfortable position that you find works for you. Once you've found that, we're going to torque the top 2 bolts to 5 Newton meters. Ensuring there is 0 gap and that the arrows are touching. After that, we can tighten our bottom 2 bolts to the same 5 Newton meters. One final personal touch you can do is adjust your hand controls, meaning your brake levers, your shifter, or your dropper post lever to your preferred angles. After you've done so, please torque back to the approved values. All right guys, thanks for coming along for the unboxing and building of your Primer 2.9 Expert. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our customer service team and they'll be happy to help you. Thanks for riding Intense.